We've definitely been tracking over the last year or two the absolute gouging that is happening to the American people from the fast food industry. In particular, McDonald's has taken a lot of the heat. I think a lot of this started during the coof lockdowns where Americans got re-addicted to fast food. As somebody who's clearly looks like they consume a lot of fast food, although I don't really anymore these days, I certainly have throughout my life. And I love myself a McDonald's breakfast. People during the lockdowns had very few options for food, and they were getting sick of eating at home. And our local government said, you can't go to the gym, but you can go to McDonald's. And so people started going back to McDonald's, and McDonald's started charging whatever the heck they wanted to charge, because there was, like, for example, where I lived in a small town, very small, small enough to have, we had two fast food restaurants, a McDonald's and a Culver's. And the only reason we had that Culver's was because there was a major highway that kind of ran through town. If you wanted to eat out and you didn't want to drive 20 minutes, you only really had McDonald's. We had a couple of delivery pizza places too, I should say. And I definitely ordered a lot of pizza during the lockdowns, especially because it was like, oh, contactless, put the food on the door, leave it. I'll leave your tip out there. Everything's good. But what happened was the lockdowns went away. The extra government checks that everyone was spending on fast food went away. But what didn't go away was the obscene high prices of McDonald's. McDonald's fans now warn the chain is pricing itself into bankruptcy as soaring costs for Egg McMuffin leaves them floored. McDonald's customers have expressed outrage over the latest uptick in the beloved menu staple. The cost of an Egg McMuffin for a fan favorite breakfast item has skyrocketed to $7.75. Wow. Now, regional McDonald's can charge different amounts because they're owned by franchises. So it's a franchise. So, I assume, for this sake of this argument, let me look right now. Let me look on DoorDash how much it is for me. Because I'm curious. Again, DoorDash sets their own prices too, but I'm curious. This is just for the breakfast sandwich alone. A meal, which includes a hash brown and a drink, is now a whopping $8.29. That's bonkers. For an Egg McMuffin, I don't think I have a McDonald's that delivers to me anymore. I'm even more in the country now. So I don't know. I'm not sure that I can even get McDonald's anymore. Okay, so I found McDonald's. I mean, the bacon, egg, and cheese bagel is $7.50. That's crazy. When did this happen? No. What the flip? The sausage McMuffin meal for me is $8.19. It's real. Holy crap. It's 10 cents cheaper than the $8.29. But $10 for an Egg McMuffin and a hash brown? You know that like a fountain drink costs McDonald's a penny, right? 1 to 2 cents, something like that is what I've read. The price hike was exposed by a customer ordering food on the McDonald's app in New Orleans who shared screenshots of the menu on Reddit. McMuffins weren't the only breakfast menu item to carry a heftier price tag. Bagels and biscuits from the fast food chain have also shot up. The sausage, egg, and cheese bagel, which I can now confirm, alone was $8.75, and the sausage, egg, biscuit was $7.35. When the Egg McMuffin was first introduced in 1975, it was 63 cents, which would be $3.79 in today's economy. So why triple that cost? The apparent pricing in New Orleans is significantly inflated compared to other locations in the U.S. That's actually not true. I just told you I looked at my price, and it's $9.29 for a bacon, egg, and cheese meal. It's $8.19 for a sausage, egg, and biscuit meal. You can't see my screen, but I'm not making that up. By the way, if you want a Coke, once you select your drink, it goes up another 10 cents. If you want a small coffee, that's what's included. If you want a soda, it's $8.29. If you want a medium soda instead of a small, it's $10.29 for a McMuffin, a hash brown, and a medium soda. Again, a medium soda, they charge you $2.29 for, costs them a few cents. The apparent pricing, so I wouldn't say it's that crazy. Reddit users slam the fast food chains for its hefty prices, saying that the company is pricing themselves into bankruptcy. Never, in my 28 years of being alive, would I expect to pay $8.29 for a McDonald's eggy biscuit, a user posted. Another asked, is this in an airport or something? Some customers have turned to their own kitchens to beat the inflated prices. I've been making my own, not quite the same, one user shared. My wife bought me these. They're definitely not healthy. They're like the Jimmy Dean's breakfast sandwiches. They're not as good as an Egg McMuffin, but they're like $1.50 each when you break out the cost. And there are other better ones. She bought me some from Costco that like are in a pink box, and they're even better. And I think they're about the same price. I wish I could think of the brand. They're at Costco. They're in a pink box. They're in like breakfast sandwich. They come individually wrapped. I can throw them in the microwave. Now, since I'm cutting carbs, she just gets me these like pre-made omelets from Eggland's Best. I cook 2 of those. That's basically all I eat between breakfast and dinner besides a protein shake. But that's neither here nor there. You know, I got it. My goal is to stop being fat in 2025. And I've been on a pretty good run. I'm down about 30 pounds. You can't, I mean, yes, you can tell I'm pretty fat from the camera, but I'm actually much fatter than you think. At one point, put it this way, I need to lose 100 pounds. So being down 30 is incredible, but I've got a long way to go. And which means I don't eat a lot of McDonald's. Fridays are my cheat day. And in fact, last Friday, side note, I did go to Taco Bell for a cheat. And I got a cheesy gordita crunch, and it was so good. Cheesy gordita crunch and a Mountain Dew. Anyway, a pitcher in New York said they paid $12 for a sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffin, the hash brown, and large diet soda. It's cheaper for me to get a deli sandwich and a soda there. It's a way better sandwich, they said. McDonald's has come under fire several times recently for hiking up prices. See, what happens is people push back, and then they lower the prices, and then people forget, and then they just crank it right back up. They crank it right back up. And that's exactly $12 for an egg McMuffin. That's crazy. In August, loyalists complained on social media after claiming the chain's famous $5 meal deal jumped in price, some locations up to $7. Fans became frustrated as the price crept up, with one Reddit user saying, I stopped going to McDonald's for a couple of years because of their prices, but the $5 meal deal seemed fair. When a couple of weeks ago, it became $6, and now today it's $7.40 more again in less than a month. It's wild. I'm done again. When I grew up, an extra value meal was $3. If you got it supersized and you got a double quarter pounder meal, that was like $4. And when I say when I'm growing up, I'm talking about like when I was in college. So sadly for me, that's further away. It feels like it was just yesterday. That was probably what I'm 42 now. So 15, 20 years ago. Oh, dang. That was longer than I was prepared to admit. But it was like $3 to $4. I lived off McDonald's in college. You couldn't get a more affordable meal. Now, I don't know how kids in college could even afford it. Diner Sam wrote on X, this was at a rest stop, but these McDonald's prices are nuts. He shared an image of the menu, which showed a Big Mac meal at $17.59. The average price of the meal, which includes fries and drink, is $8.64 in the US. By the way, truck stop McDonald's are not like airport McDonald's is. They should be just as cheap as any other McDonald's. So just because it's in a truck stop, I wouldn't expect it to be more money. Now, I will offer you an alternative. Unfortunately, the only location of this restaurant that I have anywhere near me is like 45 minutes away. But even if I'm not hungry, I always stop there to patron that their company, because Steak and Shake has announced an installations of, quote, the tallest and biggest American flags at restaurants nationwide. Also remember that Steak and Shake was, I believe, one of the first to get rid of the vegetable oil and go to beef tallow for their fries. A lot of companies are kind of taking advantage of McDonald's ripping people off. It's not just McDonald's, though. Goodbye to fast food meal options. Why fast food is getting more expensive. Rising rent, food, and labor costs are squeezing fast food chains. I don't believe that. Now, in California, when you work fast food, California is particularly squeezing these businesses because they're saying, hey, we have a minimum wage just for fast food workers. We don't have that where I live, and the fast food prices are still bonkers. This is really just nonsense. Why is Chili's still able to charge $10 and for a burger, fries, a drink, and unlimited chips and salsa for $10.50? An Egg McMuffin meal is 50% more expensive than that almost. Well, let's say 25% more expensive. McDonald's is going to keep ripping us off until people stop buying it. This says 2 years later, Californians still don't know the full impact of the $20 fast food wage. Well, this is in California where fast food is even more expensive. One of the most intense union employer battles arose back in 2022. Legislation said it would have raised the minimum wage of fast food workers to $22 an hour. Declared that fast food franchises are merely subsidiaries of their parent chains rather than independently owned businesses. They compromised on $20. The new wage went into effect in April 2024. Gee, is it possible that this is part of it? Researchers declared that the $20 wage did not reduce fast food employment, even though it did. It didn't change the number of hours worked and only led to minimal menu price increases, about 8 cents on a $4 burger. But that's simply not true. 5 days later, Virginia-based Employment Policies Institute refuted that. They concluded that California's fast food industry has lost 20,000 jobs since it rolled out. Well, yeah, of course it had to. And of course, fast food restaurants are rolling out price increases nationwide to pay for these liberal cities' price increases to keep their profits up so that people keep investing them. Stop going to McDonald's because they just keep ripping you off. They're lying to you when they pretend to care about value. They just want to rip you off. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.